Over the years, in both my research and my own personal unravelings, I've learned this. Self-sabotage is often self-protection in disguise. It wears the mask of control, perfectionism, defensiveness, or withdrawal. But beneath it is usually a tender story, a fear of not being loved without conditions. If you're tired of breaking what you love and blaming yourself after the fact, I want to offer 5 ways to begin shifting that cycle. These aren't hacks, they're hard truths with hopeful roots. First, own the pattern, don't just apologize for it. Saying I'm sorry is easy. Owning the pattern, that's the hard part. That's the part where we stop trying to clean up the broken pieces every time and start asking, why do I keep dropping the glass in the first place? We all have patterns. Emotional loops we keep walking through like familiar hallways, even when we know the doors lead to pain. For some of us, it's picking fights when things feel too good. For others, it's shutting down the moment we feel misunderstood. We say things we don't mean, we withdraw, we explode, and then we feel that guilt hangover where we're scrambling to repair what we've cracked. We say, I didn't mean to, and we do mean that. But intention doesn't erase impact. It never has. Here's the truth that stings. Repeating a destructive behavior while continuing to apologize for it isn't accountability, it's survival. And survival is loud, primal, and deeply ingrained. I've spent years looking at this in the research, how we loop through these responses, not because we're broken, but because they once kept us safe. Somewhere along the way, that reaction, anger, avoidance, defensiveness, served a purpose. It protected us. The problem is what protected you at 10 years old may be what's wrecking your relationships at 35. There's a study I love from the Journal of Behavioral Science that found when people reflected on recurring conflict in their relationships, over 80% of them could identify the moment when they knew what was coming, but almost none of them changed course. That's not laziness. That's wiring. The brain clings to patterns that feel familiar, even when they're painful, because familiarity signals safety. The storm may be painful, but it's predictable. And the unpredictable vulnerability, real emotional presence, is terrifying when you've never been taught it's safe. So how do we own the pattern? We start by asking better questions. Instead of why did I do that again, ask what was I trying to protect when I said that? Instead of what's wrong with me, try what story am I believing about myself in that moment? That shift from shame to curiosity is everything. When we're curious, we stop making the problem our identity. I'm just bad at relationships becomes I've learned some unhelpful ways to cope with fear and I'm working on them. That might sound subtle, but that's a seismic shift in the way we treat ourselves. And I'll tell you this, people who treat themselves with curiosity and compassion are far more likely to change than those who beat themselves up every time they fall short. So no, apologizing isn't enough, not when it becomes a cycle of breaking, fixing, breaking again. We need to interrupt the cycle by naming the pattern. That means journaling the moments you feel triggered. That means having uncomfortable conversations about what's underneath your anger. That means saying to your partner, your friend, your team, I've noticed I shut down when I feel like I'm not being heard. I'm working on it, not as an excuse, but as a declaration that you're doing the work. Because here's the truth. Ownership builds trust. Not perfection, not pretending, ownership. And trust is what allows love to last. Second, speak shame before it speaks for you. When we don't talk about shame, it talks for us, and it rarely uses a kind voice. Instead, it shows up in sideways comments, sarcasm, defensiveness, lashing out, pulling away. It disguises itself as anger or perfectionism or that voice in your head that says you're too much or you're not enough. And the longer we stay silent about it, the louder it gets. That's the dangerous part, when shame becomes the narrator of your life story. I've spent over 2 decades studying shame, and here's what I've learned. Shame thrives in silence, secrecy, and judgment. It's like mold. It needs the dark to grow. The moment we speak it out loud, it starts to lose its power. Not because saying it fixes everything, but because it brings us back to connection. And connection is where healing begins. Let me be clear, shame is not guilt. Guilt says I did something bad. Shame says I am bad. That difference matters because guilt can be a motivator for change, but shame corrodes the part of us that believes we can change. And when we believe we're broken or unworthy, we start behaving in ways that reinforce that belief. We destroy what we love, not because we hate it, but because we don't believe we deserve it. Let me give you an example. You snap at your partner during an argument, say something cruel. Then later, the shame hits. Instead of saying, that was out of line and I need to own it, shame says, of course you did that. You're terrible at relationships. You always ruin everything. And what do we do when we feel that kind of shame? We either armor up and double down, defend, deny, deflect, or we shut down and disappear. Either way, the connection suffers. But if we can pause just for a moment and say to ourselves, okay, I feel shame right now. And better yet, if we can say it out loud to someone who has earned the right to hear it, something shifts. We go from isolation to connection, from self-blame to self-understanding, from destruction to choice. In fact, research from the University of California shows that individuals who practice emotional labeling, that is, naming their feelings as they arise, experience lower stress responses in emotionally charged situations. That's because when we name what we're feeling, we activate the parts of the brain responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation. In other words, naming shame helps tame it. The most courageous people I know aren't the ones who never feel shame. They're the ones who refuse to let it drive the car. They say, this is the story shame's trying to sell me, but I'm not buying it today. They reach out, they speak it, they bring it into the light. So if you want to stop destroying what you love, get honest about the shame stories running in the background, say them out loud, not to anyone, but to someone who can sit with you in that space without trying to fix you or shrink you. And if you don't have that person right now, start with paper, write it down, get it out of your head, let it breathe. Because when you speak shame before it speaks for you, you take the pen back. You begin to rewrite the story. Not from a place of fear, but from a place of truth. And truth, even when it's hard, is the foundation of every relationship that's built to last. Third, learn to sit in discomfort without setting a fire. We all know that moment, that split second when something hits a nerve, and before you can even think, your heart rate spikes, your jaw tightens, and you feel the heat rising in your chest. Maybe someone said something that made you feel small. Maybe you felt misunderstood or dismissed or not in control. And in that moment, your body's screaming, fix this, fight it, run, shut it down. That's what discomfort feels like. And most of us were never taught how to just sit with it. We're taught to do something about it, solve it, silence it, stuff it, or worse, project it. So we end up blowing up, walking out, ghosting someone, blaming them for everything, or blaming ourselves into the ground. But here's the truth. The inability to tolerate emotional discomfort is one of the biggest reasons we self-sabotage. Because when we can't hold the heat, we set fires. In my research on emotional resilience, one thing became crystal clear. People who are able to disrupt destructive behavior patterns have one major skill in common. They can stay present in discomfort without reacting impulsively. And no, that doesn't mean they don't feel it. It means they've learned how to slow down enough not to let it run the show Neurologically speaking, your body's stress response is automatic. When you feel threatened, physically or emotionally, your brain kicks into fight, flight, or freeze. It floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline, and your rational brain goes offline. But here's something fascinating. That physiological wave usually peaks and subsides in about 90 seconds. 90 seconds. That's the window. If you can breathe through that surge, ground yourself, and resist the urge to react, you can actually shift the outcome of the moment. Now, that doesn't mean the discomfort disappears. It just means you don't make it worse. Think about it. How many conversations could have ended differently if you had paused? How many relationships could have been spared a scar if maybe you had taken a breath instead of saying the thing you can't unsay? And it's not just about breath work or mindfulness, though those tools help. It's about building the muscle of emotional endurance. It's the difference between saying, I can't believe you did this to me, and saying, I'm feeling really hurt and overwhelmed, and I need a moment to process. One reaction torches the connection. The other makes space for repair. This isn't easy work, especially if you grew up in an environment where emotional expression was punished or ignored. Sitting in discomfort might feel unsafe at first. But over time, as you practice staying, breathing, observing, you start to realize something. Your feelings are loud, but they're not dangerous. They're data, not directives. I often remind myself in those moments, just because I feel it urgently doesn't mean I need to act urgently. So if you're someone who tends to react fast and regret later, try this. When you feel that emotional flare, don't respond right away. Go for a walk. Step outside. Put your hand on your heart and breathe. Count to 90. Give yourself the gift of space between feeling and doing. Because when we learn to sit in discomfort without setting a fire, we stop burning bridges we never meant to lose. We stop making permanent decisions based on temporary emotion. And we start showing up, not as someone perfect or unshakable, but as someone present. And presence, more than performance, is what the people we love really need from us. Fourth, drop the armor that's keeping you alone. Perfectionism, people-pleasing, emotional numbing, these are the tools we reach for when we're afraid of being seen and rejected. We call them strengths. We say, I'm just really organized, or I just want to make sure everyone's okay, or I don't get emotional about things. But let's call them what they are, armor. And armor always has a cost. Here's what I know for sure. Armor might protect you from pain, but it also blocks love, joy, connection, and authenticity. When we walk into relationships armored up, we might avoid being hurt, but we also guarantee we won't be truly known. And being unseen in a relationship is its own kind of heartbreak. The irony is, most of us wear armor not because we don't want love, but because we want it so badly it scares us. The stakes feel high. So we try to control what people see. We hide the messy parts. We keep our opinions quiet. We present the version of ourselves we think will be accepted. But the moment someone says, I love you, or I'm here for you, a voice in the back of our head whispers, yeah, but if they really knew you, that voice, that's shame, that's fear, and armor is its coping mechanism. Research consistently shows that perfectionism is not the key to success. It's a barrier to connection. It's not the same thing as striving for excellence. It's rooted in fear of judgment, the need to be bulletproof. But people aren't looking for bulletproof. They're looking for real. They want to know you're human, not a highlight reel. And people pleasing, it feels generous, but it's not about generosity. It's about avoiding conflict. We say yes when we mean no. We agree when we're actually unsure. We shapeshift to keep the peace. But peace that costs your authenticity isn't peace. It's a performance. And over time, it leaves you exhausted, disconnected, and resentful. Then there's emotional numbing, the silent killer of connection. It's not just alcohol or scrolling or binge watching. It's checking out emotionally because feeling feels too dangerous. But when we numb the pain, we also numb the joy. You can't selectively shut down emotion. You shut down everything. I know what it's like to be the strong one, to be the reliable one, to be the one who's got it all under control. But control isn't intimacy. You don't get to feel truly loved if you're never truly seen. You don't get to experience belonging if you're always blending in. We think vulnerability is a risk, but the real risk is living your whole life behind armor and calling it safety. And here's what's wild. Every time I've dropped the armor, even a little, even awkwardly, the world didn't end. I didn't fall apart. I actually started to feel seen. And the more I did it, the more I realized I wasn't the only one waiting for permission to be human. So what does it look like to drop the armor? It looks like saying, I'm overwhelmed instead of powering through. It looks like admitting I need help without apologizing for it. It looks like telling the truth even when your voice shakes. It looks like setting a boundary and trusting that the people who love you will respect it. And sometimes it looks like choosing silence instead of pretending everything's fine. Dropping the armor is not about becoming soft or unguarded all the time. It's about learning when your protection has turned into a prison. It's about giving yourself permission to show up as you are, even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect. Because love, real love, doesn't need you to be invincible. It needs you to be there. Fifth, replace control with compassion. We don't usually think of control as a form of fear. We call it responsibility. We call it planning ahead, being prepared, staying on top of things. But more often than not, control is what we reach for when we're afraid that something we care about might fall apart, and we think it'll be our fault if it does. Here's the thing. We don't try to control things we don't care about. We try to control the things we love, our relationships, our families, our careers, our bodies, because deep down we believe if we can just get it all right, we won't get hurt. If we say the perfect thing, keep everyone happy, anticipate every outcome, then maybe we can avoid pain, maybe we can avoid failure, maybe we can outrun loss. But control is a myth, a comforting one, yes, but a myth. And while we're clinging to control with white knuckles, we're also squeezing the life out of the very things we're trying to protect. I've seen this in myself. In the moments when I feel most vulnerable, most at risk of losing something precious, my instinct isn't to lean in with compassion. It's to manage, to monitor, to fix. And what I've learned, often the hard way, is that love doesn't survive under a microscope. Connection doesn't grow in a controlled environment. It grows in warmth, in presence, in compassion. Control is rooted in scarcity. It's the voice that says, this could fall apart at any second, so you better make sure you're doing everything right. Compassion, on the other hand, comes from abundance. It says, even if things don't go the way I planned, I can still be kind to myself. I can still show up. I can still be enough. And let me tell you, compassion isn't soft. It's not passive. Compassion takes tremendous strength. It takes courage to offer understanding to yourself in moments when you feel like you failed. It takes maturity to meet someone else's imperfection without judgment. And it takes practice. A lot of it. There's data that shows people who practice self-compassion are more likely to take accountability, more likely to repair after conflict, and more likely to experience emotional resilience during hardship. That's not because they're avoiding pain. It's because they've learned how to hold pain without letting it define them. When you replace control with compassion, you begin to relate to yourself differently. Instead of pushing yourself to be perfect, you ask, what do I need right now? Instead of trying to fix others, you get curious about what they're feeling. You stop managing love like a fragile object and start trusting it like a living, breathing force that doesn't need to be micromanaged to survive. So the next time you feel that impulse to overcorrect, overexplain, overwork, pause. Ask yourself, is this coming from fear or from care? If it's fear, give it a name, sit with it, and then choose compassion instead of control. Because control might keep things looking tidy, but compassion is what keeps them alive. So here we are. We've talked about the patterns we repeat, the shame we carry, the fires we start when we don't know how to sit with pain, the armor that keeps us alone, and the illusion of control we cling to when we're just trying to feel safe. And if any part of this landed for you, if you felt even a flicker of recognition, that's not weakness, that's awareness. And awareness is where change begins. You are not broken. You are human. And like all humans, you've built defenses around your most tender places. But the truth is, if you're tired of wrecking the things you love,